Self-worth ideology. I want to talk about the idea that there's anything wrong with any of us. And if we all know that, why is it that the self-help ideologies are so popular among those of us who are on the spiritual journey of soul, correct? It doesn't have to be of just soul. It's about planting the seeds of love for each and every one of us, every day, every week, every month, and every year that we are on this plane, beating as one. I've done the work, is what many will say, when they come through, as Brenda has, with her soul lifted up, an embodiment of those wisdom words that has come into an existence of its own. We're not here to tell people that they are less than and reinforce it by telling them there is something wrong with who they are. And yet, what often happens in the middle of these quote soul sessions there are others who are screaming, I didn't feel it in the way that I did once I crossed over to the other side of the veil. There is a different worth issue that many are working with, which is more about planting the seeds of I love who I am and I'm worthy of every bit of love that I've received, whether I acknowledged it as such or not. You see, that's the difference that many are working with who come to this place of I'm loved, cherished, and adored, not just by my friends and family, but by those who honor who we are in each and every one of our moments. But yet, we say it with authority, I'm worthy. I came here with it loaded on board, right? Others will say it's a development tool that they are looking for. They want to know how to develop the self-worth. I wasn't aware of it when I was a child. I had to be taught how to be worthy of their vision of what true love truly is, from their vision. This is what many are saying. I've utilized tools or works of wisdom to allow me to feel the love of those who claim they have loved and adored me my whole life, perhaps. How many of us do feel the love of our families and friends? But for those of us who didn't have that experience of feeling like we were, quote, loved and adored by every single soul, that's the position that many are receiving when they cross over. It's told to them that there are levels of love. And in fact, there truly is that feeling of it. It is an alignment with who we are in each and every moment that most people are trying to escape. Okay? So the worthiness of who I am has nothing to do with my emotions. It's the nature of understanding it. I've walked this path alone in many ways, is where many feel like they are going, perhaps. But instead of focusing on where you didn't feel the love, I would like you to feel the vision of your own soul coming through, telling you it's just as powerful for men as it is for women, or those who align with various titles of worth. Okay? It is not about denying others their vision of whatever pronouns or sexual alignments they have, but those souls are out there stating their worth. And that is the nature of it. They deserve to be honored for that vision. And while many others will deny that vision, to them, it is a denial of their own worth when they speak those words. Now, what that means is that we often have trouble with those who are hurting us. And that is where that lack of self-worth can often feel like it is setting in. But what it truly is an acknowledgement of our emotional boundaries, is what some would say, rather than the acknowledgement that others are also feeling superior in their moments of, I've made it on some level that others haven't achieved, rather than understanding that the emotional barometer that we are using is sometimes ignored by many as thinking it is less than, rather than my mind tells me I'm worthy no matter what. But that's what's granted to us by our own souls. We don't demean ourselves for others' visions. We don't tell ourselves we're less than anyone else that has walked this plane. But many have been told that. And that is the story that they have been told in order to rise up in their, quote, vibration, correct? Because if they are not understanding that what they are utilizing is an energetic vibration in the words in which they vibrate, that is what people are starting to understand. And everyone is thinking those words are all of the high, and yet we align with the low, don't we? Are we crossing battle sticks with Brenda at this moment? You see, this is where people are going. They are loved, they're just not cherished, correct? Excuse her. Her battle scars are from her own family for the most part. I had to take it with a grain of salt. And that's what she has always told everyone who comes across her screen, right? No, it's those that she has decided to advise from her own personal experiences. She garnered the wisdom from many sources, but her own experiences have told her to walk the path of glory of herself first and foremost, which means that in this plane, we are so determined to tell ourselves that I matter and we matter, correct? That's where I come from. I don't belittle those who are belittling me, right? I have to work on my own emotional barometer when I get labeled something negative due to the idea that I don't follow in the same footsteps as their own soul. Do you see how many people assume they're all walking in the same footsteps as somebody else? And yet, we have so many souls around us who are now showing us how they themselves are embodying the wisdom of their own soul, creating beautiful words of wisdom, lifting themselves up to a point of now I'm receiving direct guidance from my own soul, from my past, my present, and my future. And then I am of love, and I'm adored, and I'm cherished, right? Or am I a threat to the self-esteem that many are confusing for self-worth? You see, these are all those ideas of I am. I am responsible for the vision of who I am in each and every moment. And yet, it takes us time sometimes to come to those conclusions that I don't need another soul's validation to lift me up. It doesn't hurt, let's put it that way. Okay, so that's the reality of what it is, though. We're often having experiences of love with others, and that is a lifting up of our hearts and our minds. But it's the internal compass that many are utilizing, saying, I was told I was less than, right? Many are being told they're less than by others, whether or not they realize it or not. What books or words of wisdom are you utilizing? And this is where Brenda will say, the spiritual alignment camp is rife with those who are trying to lower others in their minds by saying, you're not there yet, Brenda. No, I'm not on the other side of the veil yet, right? I hear from souls all the time. I'm working with my heart almost always. But my family tree is still determined to humble me in my vision. You see, the idea that we decided to do the work here on this plane is being denied by many. We are not fully united with our whole soul, and that is a whole different type of episode. Okay? When we cross over, we get to see and hear and experience our lifetimes. But this is about those who are wanting a comfortable journey in this world. I want to be comfortable. I want to be loved, adored, and cherished, right? Most will settle for, I want to be loved by somebody, right? How many people are not focusing on those around them that actually care about who they are? Now, what does that mean? We're often told it's not enough. How much love is enough for us? Do you know how many people are walking around with those ideas about others who are saying we're less than, but yet those around us who validate us are not enough, correct? What does it take to lift people up? And this is where Brenda said, I'm not going to push or pull you along the way. I will guide you to an understanding of who you are. Your friendships are part of it. We support each other unconditionally, is where most of us go when we go to this plane. We unconditionally love each other, correct? Brenda is more like, yeah, well, good luck with that one for most people, right? As soon as people start turning their backs on people, it starts to get a little bit more difficult. I've had relationships that have, quote, gone asunder. And yet I hear from their souls every so often during those turbulent times of mine saying we reunite in friendship on other veils of discovery. Okay. They want those to be the illusionary veils because they are in this idea that we are either here or in the afterlife. And when you're here, your vibration determines what you experience. Do you experience the beauty of who I am, or are you experiencing the weirdness of who I am? Right? Some people would say you're being very strange. Your voice has changed. It's a more formal tone. I sit down and I tap in and I let the visions come through. I'm not scripted in any way, shape, or form. And that's why people say, whoa, that's right. I'm in a state of light trance. But it's not in the way that many who are channeling from the place of I am in a deep trance. Okay? I know how to do that vision. But this is a more comfortable place for me because I've aligned with my soul enough that I trust and honor and adore who I am. You'll get a different experience of me as Brenda when she lets go of the conditioning of those who came before her, saying there was, quote, danger souls around. This is it's like the stopping point for many because they've experienced the creative endeavors that they themselves participated in when they've either read about those, saw those, or heard about them from other people who keep warning people about the things that they need to worry about. And Brenda says we don't deal with those. I don't have any issues with people's visions. If that's what they want to create with, that's beautiful. It's not for me. I know not to mess with them. They have free will and soul sovereignty just as much as I do. It's a choice that people are making, and the same goes for souls. They can choose to do whatever it is they want to do. At a certain point, though, you vibrate out of the idea of needing to create terror or fiction, right? Brenda's experienced a lot of things, but the majority of it was a pleasant discovery from a place of inspiration versus I'm motivating people to be afraid of the dark, afraid of their vision, afraid of their family, afraid of their guidance systems, afraid of the wisdom, because in essence, so many souls are saying, I've experienced trauma from my family and I keep it going. Because they feel like it's stuck in their bodies. And people on the other side of the veil are saying, your body is a free-flowing vision of energy. Let it go. You're creating the stopping point for many. There's no stuck energy unless you keep creating from the place that there is somewhere for it to be stuck. Our minds are creative masterpieces. Do you see why people are starting to think maybe this lady's got it figured out a little bit? We're not solid in the sense of there's no energy exchange going on between us. This is another vision that she's had. I love working with people. What I don't do is I don't take on the negativity of your thoughts, your emotions, or your vibration. And I know what a vibration is, and I know what it feels like to feel someone else's denser vibration. I know when I myself am caretaking that vision and saying, I understand. It's part of who I am. To say, I love who I am, and this is a part of me that I rejected as a child. That's now coming to me and telling me, I miss my mommy. Right? That was part of me as a child. I didn't know it, but I did. Okay? There are souls there that now understand that when I'm opening up to the nature of the field of vision is wide and aplenty for all of us to experience the beauty of who we are. Whether or not we feel it or not makes no difference. And it's not about trying to trick you or condition you into believing it. It's just granted to you. We're wanting a better experience of ourselves with others most often. But that unconditional love comes from very few, is where many go. I honor you where you are honored. I honor you in your breaths. I honor you in your heart. I honor you in your soul. We're all souls walking upon this plane, and yes, others will say there's various other forms, but in essence, you would be surprised what Brenda creates with sometimes. She knows how to handle anybody. The vision of love is really, truly what unites us, but it's not really known on this field of vision, because in essence, when you cross over, you start to hear various loving visions of your soul coming back to you, right? And others that are coming for you, saying, I'm the one that's in your future, and I'm making my way to you. This is how she knows how to handle the future vision without getting too attached to an outcome, perhaps. Okay? We love our journey. We build on it. We express the love, adoration, and soul vision, which is that vision of we're creating with other souls, and it is coming through strong. I love you, set me free is where many are in their hearts when they get in those ridiculous relationships with people that are hurting them left and right, up and down. You say thanks, but no thanks. We're not on the same level of soul, correct? No, you just say, I understand that's where they are. But many are saying, I'm in these relationships that are toxic or tragic. then take the steps forward to move into a new way of being for yourself and your family. And say, I love who I am. I love who I am mastering myself after. This is what I do. I'm mastering myself first and foremost. And that's when others are saying they've mastered the wisdom of others first. But in reality, it's all about the mastery of who we are. Not in the sense that we're like taking on somebody's wisdom and bringing it forth for them, correct? I know how to do that vision. But this is about aligning with those of us on this plane who understand the nature of what this is. I'm loving who I am by being who I am. And if I say I don't like somebody, that doesn't mean I don't honor them as soul and know that there's a connection between me and them. I may not like the behavior or I may not like the expression, but I don't have to sit there and say, I love you so much when they're trying to hurt me. That's not how this works. There are going to be those souls that are more difficult. So when you're in my line of work, you want to align with as many as you can who are in the vision of, I'm not there yet, am I? We're all there in essence, creating various paths of glory for ourselves. We're glorious in our vision. You just haven't felt it yet. I move like an angel is where others are. Brenda says, I've experienced myself as one. I just didn't acknowledge it as myself. How about that? I know how to create from a place of soul miracles, but I didn't acknowledge it as that in the moment. I know how to create a place where people who honor each other, no matter what their sexual orientation or identities are. For that is the big leap in faith that many are going to have to take with those of us on this field of discovery. So it's like it's a hard way to be, is where some souls that she's created with have come through and talked to her about it. So it's a hard way to be told you can't love somebody who's a consenting adult, of course, and whose wise and wisdom comes through. She's throwing away her life, is what some people would say when she said, I'm not going to walk in the shadow of another man. That's her soul. I don't need to walk in the shadow of another man. I don't glorify anyone else as better than me. Now, you may have your own interpretations about what forms of guidance or what level of wisdom you want to receive your soul guidance from. But when she says, I'm just as strong as any soul that's ever walked this plane, I know what I'm talking about. Right? Those prophetic words of wisdom, others are saying those are the false prophets. This is not about anti-religion, but it's about the nature of what people created in order to pigeonhole people into one way of being, correct? Or not. It's about the love of all, even those we disagree with. And that's what many are saying. I understand that's where they feel like they need to be. And that's why I can cherish them without saying that I agree with their hearts, right? This is why people are saying this is a very strong message for many of us about the idea of our worth. If you're granting yourself self-worth, you grant that for all of us. And so what does that mean for you? How are you treating others? Are you telling them they're less than? Are you telling them there's something inherently wrong with them? You see, that's one level of soul where you get to be beautiful and loved and cherished and adored by your own soul, even doing those visions. And then you rise up out of the nature of needing to feel like someone else is a threat to your own sexual orientation, because those kinds of visions are internalized threats of consciousness. They are a threat to the consciousness because in essence they are basically saying, I am adored for who I am. That's what someone's saying. But I can't get there because of what I was trained in my mind to say. I know what I know is what her friend of fortune and love would have said. And yet she never understood the nature of being able to bring through soul wisdom from those souls who've crossed over and said, I'm just as loved and adored as anyone else that walked this plane. As it should be. Correct? You see, this is the nature of transitions. And these are the souls that have been saying, I have to pronounce myself beautiful for everyone in order for them to see it as that as well. Do they need to see the beauty of who they are from their soul? And what makes you think that their souls or any other soul that walks this plane is going to be told anything different? Where might your soul be if you're thinking that? You'll always get the beauty of your soul. There is no revenge on the soul level. Okay? It's like the enduring process of Christ is what Brenda has been working with. It's a process of reaching that kind of wisdom that she gets related to that soul. Okay? But it's not her cup of tea for the most part, because in essence she already knows that's a different soul's work of wisdom. Okay? That's a soul that wants to create with as many people as possible, but from a place of, I am of worth always. That's her soul. She came up with that. I did not need that soul. And this is Brenda declaring it. I came up with that on my own. I knew that walking in to this video. I knew that when I was a child, and I stated with glory and declaration, I am a female and I'm proud of it. Okay? I don't need people telling me that I'm less than just because I happen to have a vision that portrays itself as female. I can go to the nature of who I am as a male from a soul level understanding. Okay? And people are going to go, what? That's a whole nother episode. I identify as female and I feel very female here, but we often have other lifetimes of experiences that we can indeed bring to us if we want. But in essence, to keep this story short, I want to honor all of those that are thinking that the self-worth ideology is about telling us how much we're loved, adored, and cherished, but it's also about allowing ourselves to see our own ideas of worth and where are we planting it for others. You don't need to tell people they're worthy for them to feel it. Let's express it in the ways in which we treat each other and in which we honor each other, even in those moments of glory or deception, right? That's where people will say Brenda was walking with the deception. She has her own shadow vision she works with sometimes. That's what people are thinking that shadow vision was, right? No, it was the idea of others trying to place another man above her. In wisdom. And while that soul may have it all figured out for his soul, it doesn't mean it's going to resonate for everyone who walks on this plane, because we do not demean those masters of soul who also align hand in hand and would walk with that soul to the field of glory of all. Because that's where she is, the love of all, not the love of one soul. Okay? We're all collectively creating together, not just as souls. Think about it, what we create here, right? And that's the beauty of the creation of all of us, the consciousness of the planet. the consciousness of certain souls. And that's what she brings through sometimes, are those consciousness visions that then expand our understanding about who we are as we place our field of vision on the consciousness of who I am. I love you and I set you free from me if you need to be set free. I don't force my vision onto others. I will place it out there for others to either revel in or to reject. And I'll say, I totally get it. You need to be you. I need to be me. And together we create with that unison vision where we all really are on a certain level in the beating of our hearts, the unison. And it's the beauty of who I am when I align with the nature of who I am as soul. And I want everyone to think about the nature of, others are going to say possession from a soul level. This is not what most of us in spirituality are working with. And there is a difference between those who are of spiritual enlightenment and the awakening process versus those of religious aspiration or inspiration who are thinking that they're going to be aligning with another soul outside of who they are. Okay, that's why there's a difference. And Brenda's trying to bridge the gap between the two. Not so great lately, let me tell you. She admits that. Because in essence, someone will say she's fundamentally flawed from those books. Because that's where they see themselves. It's hard to be conditioned in a book in which you are less than because you have dropped in a vibration, thinking that somehow you are not able to overcome that, versus those who never had to feel like they were flawed and rose naturally in this vibration. Ka-chow. She never did lower herself in the eyes of anyone else. And that's why we hold ourselves up. And we realize that everyone has their own struggles in this world, but they don't have to lower themselves in their minds. Okay? Because that's where most of that stuff about worth is resonating. Okay, we know there are vibrational beings of love that come through. Brenda knows what the high stuff feels like. But she's working with souls who are working their way up to those levels of we are, which is the next level of I am, right? After I am, Brenda says, I am, we are. You hit the I am, you know who you're working with, right? Brenda says this is just the nature of who she is, naturally, right? I'm strong in my vibration, strong in my self-identity, who I am, right? Reach out and touch me, right? That's what her soul can do for her. She knows how to handle those souls who try to hurt her in her mind sometimes. But it's more, and that's what the next level is being able to handle the we are vision that she is bringing out. This is not about anyone else. She's saying this is the nature of how we talk. When we can start saying we are. So if someone is saying we are loved and adored, that includes all of us, not just some of us. So when you're spreading those words of wisdom, remind yourself you're speaking for every soul that has ever walked this plane. That's how strong my love is for all of us. I miss my family sometimes. Sometimes my family can't handle my wisdom. And they say, I wish I could get there, right? It's not a pleasant experience for a lot of people because they think that it's more about processes versus the idea that I'm Brenda's highest vision of soul coming through in this moment. She's been higher before, but for what this soul session was needed, this is just fine. We plant the beauty of love. We feel the grittiness of life. Some of us are here to fly high and be loved and adored always. And others are like, I'm here to fight like a devil. Because that's what someone was telling her she was working with. And she said, that's an interesting projection and a created form based on those who create with that in their minds. And then as she realized, my own soul guidance said that vision is going to be out for the most part, except for the subconscious level in the next 30 or so years. Believe it or not, this is how fast the books of wisdom are going to expand outside of the nature of what they are knowing to be. It's not a static vision, and that's why we have so many young souls coming through with the vision of love, of spiritual enlightenment and awakening. They come in already knowing that vision isn't for them because it doesn't resonate with their vibration. Our generational charges are coming forth saying, hallelujah, they don't need that stuff on their hearts or in their minds. It's basically a burden on the back. That's what I had to work through. I had to work through those who actually dealt with that kind of soul and said they created that, and that's what they understand. It was a creation of the mind for the most part, and then they got the experience of it from their own soul's vision. That, my friends, tells you what you want to align with or not. That's why everyone's wanting to hear the words of wisdom and the beautiful words of wisdom in those books. But if you are not hearing just that, you do realize you vibrate in the beauty of those of, quote, lower levels of love. It's just a vibration. It's not a destination. We don't aim for destination points for the most part. We enjoy our ride. And that's where we want to go with all of you. So if you want to enjoy more sessions, please remember to like, follow, and subscribe, depending on what platform you're watching this on. And as always, remember, like my soul told me to, it was a guidance thing. It wasn't a direction, a directive or anything. Stay curious, wise, and soulful. Have a wonderful evening.